Have you ever felt like life has beaten you down so hard there's no way back up? Like every failure, every scar, every loss has left you empty? This is the story of a broken warrior who had nothing left except a rusted sword and a spark of hope. What he forged from his pain would not only change his destiny, but inspire a legend. This is the tale of the Phoenix of Steel. Once upon a time, in a forgotten corner of the world, there was a village surrounded by towering mountains. The villagers lived simple lives, cultivating crops and tending to livestock. But one thing that set them apart was the legendary forge that had been passed down for generations, a forge so powerful that it could mold metal into any shape, any purpose. The forge was famous far and wide for creating tools of great beauty and power. However, there was one item that the villagers had long sought to craft, a sword strong enough to defeat any enemy, a sword that could bring peace to their land, a sword made from a rare metal called Steel of Hope. But the Steel of Hope was a mystery. It was a metal that only appeared in times of great adversity, when the heart of a person burned with unwavering desire to overcome challenges. No one knew how to create it, and many had tried to forge it, but all failed. One day, a young man named Kale arrived in the village. He was no blacksmith, no noble, and certainly no hero. He had come from a faraway land, worn and broken from the many battles he had fought, battles he had lost. His heart was heavy with regret, and his spirit was crushed. But Kale carried something with him that no one had noticed, a small, rusted sword. When he saw the forge, his eyes filled with sorrow and hope at the same time. Maybe, he thought, if I can make this sword into something meaningful, I can prove that my journey was worth something. The village blacksmith, an old man named Erix, noticed Kale's determination. The Steel of Hope only appears to those who truly understand the weight of failure, Erix said, placing a hand on Kale's shoulder. If you truly wish to craft a sword from it, you must first learn to embrace your pain. Kale didn't understand, but he agreed. For days, he worked with Erix, melting metal, hammering it into shape. But no matter how hard he tried, the sword remained weak, brittle. He had no idea how to make the legendary metal. One evening, as the sun began to set, Kale found himself sitting alone by the forge. He stared at the small sword he had carried for so long. He thought about every battle he had fought, every time he had fallen. The scars on his body and soul seemed to mock him. "I'll never be good enough," he whispered. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. What if your failures are not the end? What if they are the beginning of something new? It was Erix, standing in the shadows. Kale looked up. What do you mean? I've failed. I've lost everything. What do I have left? Erix smiled. You have yourself. You have the strength to rise again. The Steel of Hope isn't something you find, Kale. It's something you create from the ashes of your past. That night, Kale sat by the forge, staring into the flames. Slowly, he began to reflect on his journey, not just the losses, but the lessons he had learned. He realized that every failure, every moment of pain, had shaped him into the person he was. The failures weren't signs of weakness, but markers of growth. With renewed purpose, Kale took up the hammer once more. He worked through the night, pouring his heart into the metal. As the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, he struck the final blow. The sword shimmered with a radiant glow. The Steel of Hope had been born. But the true magic of the sword wasn't in its brilliance. It was in the journey Kale had undertaken to create it. The strength he had gained from embracing his failures, the courage to rise from the ashes of his past, had forged something far stronger than any metal. It had forged his spirit. When Kale stood before the villagers, holding the sword high, they saw not just a blade, but a symbol of resilience. A reminder that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you can always rise again, stronger, sharper, and more determined. The sword was a beacon of hope for the entire land. And Kale, once a broken man, became a legend because he had discovered that the true power of hope lies in our ability to keep forging forward, even when the path seems impossible.